Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Tonight's video, I'm going to be going over my latest acquisition, which is this WBP Mini Jack 556. Now this is a little bit different because this had a 5.5mm conversion done, side folder conversion done by Embach Armory. And because this is a pretty modified gun from what you're going to get from the factory if you buy a mini jack, I'm going to break this video up into two parts. The first part is going to be kind of my experiences and an overview of what you can expect from the factory rifle. And then the second part will go into the custom aftermarket mods that I have done to it. All right, so for first things first, for all of the YouTube censors out there, I do want to show that this magazine in the gun is safe. Magazine is empty. Chamber is empty. So now that we have that out of the way, we can continue with the rest of the video. So lots of videos out there already about the WBP Mini Jack, but just kind of a quick overview. It is a 5.56 chambered AK. And typically how you would get this from the factory is that it would have the black polymer furniture on there, or at least the handguards, and then you would have just a smooth back receiver. The receiver, or the rear trunnion, does have a underfolder trunnion underneath the receiver. If you want to make it an underfolder, you could send it somewhere to have it done. They cut the holes in it, obviously you'd have to get the stock and whatnot. It also does typically come from the factory with the typical WBP virgin or unfinished bolt carrier. And then on top of that, the threads, it has a 14x1 thread pattern on here. The barrel length, so it's a little bit conflicting because I've read some that says it's 10 inches and I've read some that says it's 10.2. So I'm not exactly 100% sure, but it's 10 inches to 10.2 inches. Also coming from the factory, it does have the side rail option on there, though this is a different one that comes on it from the factory, but still has a side rail. Of course, you do have the eagle emblem there that comes with typical WBP guns. Smooth top cover on it. You get your standard ACAM sights. So again, these ones are also aftermarket, but I'll get more into that in the rest of the video. And then as far as the grip goes, it comes with your standard AK black polymer, which you see here. I have the Tango down. And then for magazine, it does come with one magazine, which you get one of these WBP translucent ones that comes with the gun. Kind of going back to the muzzle end of this, the thread protector, even though I did mention this does have a 14-1 thread pattern on there, it does have a thread protector on there that is tack welded on. If you want to remove that, all you simply have to do is take a Dremel and break the tack that's on the bottom of it. It's very, very simple to do. And talking about the finish now, so one thing I will say about this is that the finish is pretty crappy, which is typical with a lot of AKs, at least factory AKs, Arsenal being one that really comes to the top of my mind. It has some type of enamel finish on it, and it does flake off rather easily. Let me see if I can show you here, without bumping the camera too much. What you see on the front end of the receiver, and then also these flakes on the front trunnion, that is the factory finish. Everything that's kind of like on this end back, it was just some cheap contractor grade flat black spray paint that I had done after I had done had the trunnion reworked onto it and had it swapped out. I will say that this finish, at least so far, is holding up a lot better than the WBP finish as it comes from the factory. Again, it is pretty cheap. It does flake off pretty decently well, as you can really see, so like right here. But I kind of think that that's to be expected when it comes to factory AKs, at least on the ones that we're getting now. All right, so when it comes to mag compatibility, like I mentioned, comes with the WBP mags, factory magazines. They do not have any type of metal reinforcement in them whatsoever. Absolutely no issues with them whatsoever. As you see here, I have an assortment between these 7 different magazines here. These ones here being the Gun Mag Warehouse Bulgarian 5.56 mags. I think these things cost about $15 from Gun Mag Warehouse. Do have the metal reinforcement lug on the back along with the front. Do have the FB Radom Barrel mags. No metal reinforcement. Also have the AC Unity. These are like the AK-12 type copycat magazines. Do have the metal reinforcement on them. Also have the sight windows on the side. Of course, we also have the good old classic Bulgarian Circle 10 waffle mags. And then last but not least, I do have some of these Russian plums here. These are a 545 by 39 magazine, but you can make them work with the Pod Arms followers that you see here. You just change it out and you use these as 556. Lastly, I do have the Bulgarian Circle 10 20 round magazine. So I will say that all of these magazines fit pretty well. The Bulgarian $15 gun mag warehouses, they go in and out pretty easily. The WBP mags that you expect would go in very easily. The FB Radom Barrel mags go in very easily as well. The AC Unities, a little bit tougher, but nothing crazy. Circle 10s, those go in very nice and smooth. A little tight towards the front, but they click in very easy. And then the Russian plums here, these go in a little bit rougher, require a little bit more force. They are a little bit tight towards the front. You can kind of see how they're leaving that wear mark there. Do require a little bit more force getting in and out, but do work. As far as the Pod Arms follower, I haven't had a chance to shoot with this yet, though I did load 10 rounds up into this magazine earlier and then just kind of hand cycled them through there. Didn't have any issues feeding or ejecting. I know that's not the same thing as firing, but at least that's a good sign. Now, when it comes to these Bulgarian Circle 10 20 rounders, these translucent mags, these did not want to fit at all. Really had to kind of force them in. As you can see here, where I removed some material on the front, that's really where it hung up. Once you get them in and got the front to line up, they do again in the rear snap in a little bit tighter, but nothing terrible. I do have 3 of these, and with all 3 of these, I did have to take a Dremel and sand these down a little bit. Again, it's not the smoothest looking job in the world, but once you get them inserted, you can't even see it. I did toy with the option of opening the magazine well up in the front a little bit. Decided not to do that since all of the other magazines fit very well, with the exception of these. So in that case, I decided to go ahead and modify the magazines instead. One thing that I did happen to notice on this gun that I've never seen with any of my other AKs, but when it comes to the safety, I think most people know that when the safety is engaged, it keeps you from being able to fully rack the bolt. But I did notice on this gun that when you have it in the safe position, if you pull hard enough, you can pull past that safety and it presses it up. Don't really know what the driver behind that is. Can't really explain that one. Maybe it's the safety. Maybe I'll try getting an aftermarket safety for it and see if that's the same type of problem. But that's something to take note of. So shooting impressions with this gun. So I'm going to talk about what it's like with the OEM bolt carrier along with the OEM piston. So as to be expected with a 5.56 AK, it is a very soft shooting gun. That said, I also didn't shoot it without the JMac muzzle brake suppressor mount here, but I'm sure it's not terribly different. 5.56 is a very mild round, and at least when you shoot it side by side to a 7.62 by 3.9, it's going to be very soft. Even with the OEM piston in there, again, very soft as far as ejection pattern. It definitely does launch the shells in typical AK fashion. Very high and behind, probably launches them 25-30 feet in the air. Interestingly enough, though, that even with the OEM piston, have shot 3 different types of ammo through this so far. PMC X-Tac M193, some Wolf Black Box 223, and then along with some Tula 223. And Tula, which is definitely known to be one of the weaker ammos out there, it does not want to reliably run in this gun, even with the OEM piston that's in here. Sometimes you can get a couple rounds off, sometimes you can only get one. With the Wolf, didn't have an issue, and with the M193, definitely did not have an issue whatsoever. As far as muzzle velocities go, I did take the Labrador out there with me. Did shoot some rounds through it to see what kind of velocity I was getting. You know, I am a big AR guy. Mark 18 is one of my favorite guns. You know, I think at least when it comes to ARs, 10.3 inches is typically thought of to be the shortest barrel that you should go with 5.56. Some of that is because you get the minimum muzzle velocity. You know, when it comes to 5.56, the effect that it has on targets as far as turning sideways and then shattering and breaking up in a bunch of small pieces and breaking on the cannoneer. That is really one of the highly regarded wounding properties of the 5.56 round. Now, when it comes to at least M193, it's been about 2,600 feet per second is what the threshold is for reliable fragmentation. Now, that is give and take plus or minus some feet per second when it comes to that. But I want to say that it was Fackler that published it. 2,600 rounds was, or I'm sorry, 2,600 feet per second was about the threshold of which you're going to get reliable fragmentation with M193. So going back to the muzzle velocity, again, I don't know if this is 10, if this is 10.2. But when I was chronoing M193 out of this, I did also do some of the Wolf and Tula, but that was only kind of interesting. I don't think anybody would really use that for self-defense rounds, so it's better than having nothing. But when it came to M193, I was seeing high 2400s, low 2500 foot per second. So quite a bit lower than my Mark 18. You know, I did see 2600, 2650 pretty reliably using M193. And then again, not to say that at 2495, high of 24s, low 2500s that it won't. Just from what's readily known out there, it may not. So if you're going to buy one of these guns and you're going to use it for protection or defense, you may want to take a look at running 77 grain open tip match, as that typically only needs about 1900 feet per second. But didn't try running 77 grain open tip match in this yet. I don't know if that longer bullet, if it would cause any type of feeding issues whatsoever. But keep that in mind. PMC X-Tac 2503, 2499, 2537, 2512, 2514. So speaking of reliability and kind of going back to the magazines, so of all the different magazines that I showed previously, honestly, the only issues that I had was out of my Bulgarian Circle 10 waffle magazines, which was really, really surprising to me, because Bulgarian Circle 10s, whether they be for 5.56, whether they be for 7.6239, are typically known to be some of the most reliable magazines out there whatsoever. Now, you know, might have been a fluke, but every other magazine that I've tried shooting with, I haven't had any issues whatsoever. It was only with those Bulgarian Circle 10 waffle mags. So as far as iron sights go, you know, typically what comes on it, you do get your standard AK sights here. You get the 800 meter sights with a slider on there and your front sight post. I did change these out for excess sights. But again, I will save those for the second half of the video. But you know, pretty short sight radius that you get out of one of these things, so it's definitely not going to be one of your long range guns, and not only just because of the limited muzzle velocity, but you know, the shorter sight radius as well. But that's not to say that you can't make hits on there. So that's about it for the first part of the video, kind of going over some of the basics of my shooting impressions of what you could expect with a factory mini Jack 5.56. Definitely a great gun. Cost about 850 bucks. I bought it from Atlantic Firearms. They don't currently have any more in stock. I don't really see a lot of these out there in stock anymore. I don't know if WBP brings these in waves or what, but it has been not quite 2 months since I bought this. But I was the last one. If I was not the last, I was the second last person to buy one of these in stock at Atlantic Firearms. Because I went back and looked and there was no more available. Haven't seen any available at Armors of America, but it is what it is. So hopefully there's more of them that come in, that anybody who is currently looking at getting one of these, you can get your hands on one. So if you want to hear a little bit further about my customizations and my experiences with some of those add-ons that I did after the fact, stay tuned for part number 2, which we're going to roll right into. All right, so moving on to the second part of the video, kind of want to talk about my customizations that I have done to it, my thoughts of how I wanted to customize it and why. First and foremost, going into this, I kind of been looking at these for a little bit. I do have other AKs. I have my Sam 7K, which has the 8.3 inch barrel. I got the KP104, that's the 12.4, and I have the Barrel, which is 16 inches. But those are all in 7.62 by 3.9. 5.56 AKs. I did have a Arsenal SLR 106 FR back in like 2017, 2018 time frame. I do regret getting rid of that one. But I do, when it comes to AKs or ARs, I'm more of a fan of the shorter barrels. So, not a lot of options out there. In my mind, 12.5 is about the perfect barrel length for both AK and ARs. Not a lot of options out there for a 12.5 inch barreled factory AK. So, decided that I would go ahead and try the mini jack first. I do know that going into it, I did want to run it suppressed. With the Putnik, the Putnik being a 30 cal can, and even as a 30 cal can, having that giant 400 thou outside diameter on there, I knew it was going to be a problem. Though I still kind of have my fingers crossed a bit, knowing how AKs can be with their barrel concentricity. So, was going to keep it very basic. Wasn't going to put any type of rail hand guards on there like I had with other AKs. I wasn't going to put any optics on there. Wasn't going to put a weapon line on there whatsoever. So going in, I knew that's what I wanted. Started thinking about it a little bit more, and I happened to Google WBP mini jack, and it brought me to Embach Armory, their Instagram page, and it brought me to a conversion they had done to make this a 5.5 millimeter folding side conversion done to the gun. Really got me super interested. The gun looks super cool. Knew it was definitely going to require a little bit of work, along with money coming out of pocket. I am an AR guy. I am not an AK Smith by any means whatsoever. With the mini jack having the underfolder rear trunnion on there, reached out to Embach Armory. Now I had talked to Christian, who is the owner of Embach Armory, many months ago, talking about building a 12.5 7.62 AK, which I ultimately ended up selling on the KP104, but he had given me a really decent price on it. I kind of consider it very coincidental, maybe even fate, that he had the Instagram post with the mini jack with the 5.5 conversion. So I reached out to him, asked him what it would consist of. He let me know that it would need a AK100 rear trunnion, and then it would also need the AK100 side rail on here. Different from what it comes on there. It is shaped a little bit different in order to clear the typical polymer AK100 polymer stock has a cutout in it, and it's made to fit this perfectly. And speaking of furniture, I figured this would be a perfect example to save a little bit of money, because on my KP104, as I received it did have the KUSA polymer, black polymer upper and lower handguard, along with the polymer side folding stock. So the original plan was to just stick that on there. That's what was on the Instagram post. But I can never leave enough alone. But going back to the side folder conversion, so again, reach out to Christian. He let me know that I would need the rear trunnion, I would need a new side rail on there. Once I bought that, sent me links for it at akstuff.com. The parts cost $234 after shipping, and then there was going to be $500 in labor. Now I know $500 seems a bit much, but when you think of the work that needs to be done, and basically what they have to do is they have to drill off the old receiver, they have to drill off the old side rail, you've got to cut the back of the receiver open for the AK100 rear trunnion, you have to weld up the old holes, you have to cut the hole here for the keyway for the side folder, the button for the side here, along with locating the latch and the cutout for the hook on there. So it's definitely not something that I was going to be capable of myself. And honestly, I didn't go ask around anywhere else, but I got a really, really good vibe from Christian. He was very, very communicative. He answered all the questions that I had. I mean, we have a string of messages on Messenger that goes like super long. All the questions I had to ask, he entertained every single one of them. You don't always get that, especially when it comes to AK Smiths, since they are a little bit fewer and far between. I asked about the turnaround time. You told me to be a few weeks, like a month max. So with that in consideration, especially because I hate waiting on stuff, really, really hate it. So, I figured let's go ahead and have that done. So had the mini jack sent to him. Ordered the parts from akstuff.com, had them sent directly to his shop, and he got to work on it. So really, really satisfied with how the work came out after all. As I thought about this more and more, I decided I wanted to go ahead and ditch the polymer rear stock, and I wanted to get the triangle folder on here. So on Atlantic Arms, I saw that they were selling the KUSA triangle folders. It was like 125 bucks. They're 5.5 millimeters, so that was all going to work. So I went ahead and ordered that up. I do know, typically with AK stocks, they are a little bit shorter than what's comfortable for a lot of people, especially for me. So I ordered one of these butt pads on here. Now, originally I wanted one of the Embach ones, which I don't remember. I think it was 4shooters.com, which they had them available. Next second best option was going to be the one from ME Industries, I think it is. It's Military Equipment Industries. It's that Ukraine company. They make handguards and whatnot. Said it would fit. So went ahead and ordered this up. It definitely was a little bit cheaper. I think the Embach one was like 45, 50 bucks, whereas this one here was only like 28 bucks. With the rear trunnion kit that I ordered from ak100.com, it did also include the 5.5 millimeter pin. And once I got the gun, actually, let me circle back a little bit. Kind of going back to the looks of it, thinking about what I wanted to do for a handguard. I figured I was going to do like the cheese grater handguard, and then I was going to do maybe something like a battlefield pickup. So I was searching around. I found one from, I think it's Desert Fox Outfitters. There were these East German wood handguards that were, advertised as battlefield pickup. Really, really rough shape, which I didn't care. That's what I wanted. I had the palm swill. I do really like the palm swill when it comes to handguards. It was like 35 bucks or so. Unfortunately, when I got it, it did have a crack that went all the way through from the exterior to the interior of the handguard and through the cleaning rod hole. Went ahead and sent that one back. They gave me a refund on it, no problem. Gave me a, return shipping label. So, thought about the idea of getting some unfinished handguards and then restaining them myself, and then ultimately ended up going with this WBP set. Was really happy with it. Didn't end up using the cheese grater. The one I ordered, I want to say it was a Palmetto State Armory one. Did not easily want to go onto the gas tube. So I kind of use that as a sign to just go ahead and order a different handguard. So got this match set here. As far as the pistol grip goes, I already had a Tango Down black pistol grip on here. Wanted a little bit of contrast in there, so went ahead and ordered the one. I think this is called burgundy or mahogany. I don't remember exactly. I want to say it's probably burgundy, but definitely like the way that it ended up looking after in the end. As far as muzzle brakes go or suppressor mounts, the Putnik, it is hub compatible. I do have the JMac X37 360 HDs on other guns. Particularly my Sam 7K, along with my KP104. So got the HD on there, 14x1 face mount. As far as the concentricity, even though I didn't really think there was going to be much of an issue with the 30 cal can and a 5.56 chambered gun, I'll go ahead and drop a picture in there. So not super dead on, but very, very far from being an issue whatsoever. Went ahead and got that muzzle brake put on there, suppressor mount. As you see here for a sling, I am left-handed, so I can never use the built-in sling swivel that comes on the handguard retainer. Did go ahead and get one of the Blue Force gears AK slings here for it. The adapter just kind of looped it in between the barrel and the gas tube. And then with the back end of it, using the sling swivel that is on the KUSA triangle folder. Then, like with my other AKs, I did go ahead and use the Edward Sherman Design ESD sling. Really like these things. They do have a 1-inch web. I've got some in the past I bought for an AR and I didn't really like the way they felt. For some reason, I do like the way they are for AK. So has a quick pull loop for attachment there. It's got a built-in stowage that you can fold to swing up and bunch it into there. You know, no QD on here whatsoever, but really like these slings. All right, so now getting into the bolt carrier. So have never really been a super big fan of how these virgin unfinished bolt carriers look on any gun whatsoever. I know the WBPs are pretty widely, I think that's one of their, I don't want to call it a trademark, but one of the things they have on almost all their rifles. I might be wrong about that. Wanted a blackened one, so happened to be perusing around on AR15.com in the AK-47 discussion forum, and I saw a post where somebody asked about blackening one of these things, and some people were offering some suggestions, and then somebody had linked in that Atlantic Firearms was selling these WBP 5.56 carriers for $75. So a couple different benefits that I thought from there. Besides getting the blackened color that I wanted, I also knew that from my experience with other AKs that I wanted to get a KNS adjustable piston for it. Also was going to be another opportunity where I was going to be able to run an OEM piston side by side next to a KNS piston. Now, even with the piston adjusted so that it's fully closed off, I thought it'd be pretty cool. And then one of the other side benefits of it is, you know, depending on the AK you get in the manufacturer, depends on how easy or not it is to find the rivet retaining pin or the retaining rivet for your carrier. Now, as you can see here, which if I can get the camera to focus, WBP does an extremely well job of covering up the rivets. Now, I don't know if you can see it on camera. Let's see if I can get it to focus here. I can see the rivet outline. And this is definitely not worse than my Boreal was. It's just, you know, let's call it one little extra side fringe benefit of having a different carrier. Because it is, again, the one that you get that's blackened, it is just the carrier. You just screw in the new KNS piston or any other piston, then go ahead and put in the roll pin. All right, so now getting into getting the KNS for it. So you see here, I have the OEM carrier and piston laying side by side by the aftermarket, but still WBP carrier, blackened carrier, along with the KNS piston. When I ordered these, and I will say on KNS's website, they do tell you very explicitly that you need to measure what they call the working length and then the hole length. So you need to measure from the end of your piston to where the carrier starts, and then you need to also mention from where the carrier starts back how far the hole is. And they say that that is absolutely crucial when picking a KNS piston for your gun. That being said, the 4 or 5 other KNS pistons I've ordered in the past, because they do list all the different model numbers on there and what guns they're typically made for, I have never had a problem pre-ordering something without measuring it first. So this one was going to be a first for me. So the KNS AGP-A-4S is the one that is advertised to be used for the WBP Mini Jack 5.56, and then also the Zastava, I don't remember exactly what model number is the M90, not exactly sure. Arms of America had that listed. Went ahead and ordered from them. I did notice that when I installed the KNS piston onto this carrier that it was shorter than the OEM piston. It was probably about half an inch, if not more, shorter. Kind of out of ignorance, I wanted to say that it wasn't going to be a problem because that was the piston that it was needed. Took it to the range for the first time, and it would not fire more than, it wouldn't fire one round. It wouldn't even cycle. It wouldn't even eject around with the K&S piston, even in the fully closed position, because it was too short. So that really sucked. Put the OEM carrier back in, put the change, swap the bolt over. And for anybody who doesn't know, carrier swapping with AKs is typically okay, at least from what I understand. It's the bolt that you have to worry about that it's headspace correctly. So moving between the OEM and the aftermarket one, or if you have any other AK, you should be good as long as you're using the same bolt. The bolts do need to be fitted and headspace to the barrel. So anyway, got back to the house, went ahead and took some measurements based on K&S's guidelines, and come to find out that what I was measuring between the working length and then the hole length was really more along the lines of the AGP-A-23S, which is the one that's designated for the C39 V2 AK, which is, I believe, a Century International. Reached out to K&S, asked them about that, sent pictures to them with my digital mic, kind of asking to confirm. One of the things also that I did notice is that this is the piston alone as I received it from Arms of America. And anybody who knows anything about K&S's, they should not be free spinning like this. That you hear some tactileness, but for the most part, they should not spin that easy. So when you're looking at one that does work correctly, it requires a little bit of resistance. Definitely puts up some resistance, and definitely way more tactile. So what I was kind of hoping was that I'd reach out to K&S, kind of tell them what I was dealing with, and then along with the fact that something seemed to be wrong with this K&S head, that they would allow me to swap one out, because they did allow me to do that in years past when I ordered the wrong K&S piston for my 13-inch Galil. But in this case, since I'd already fired it, it was no longer new. They weren't willing to help me out on that whatsoever. But what they were willing to do was send me a new head along with a return shipping label to send this one back, which I do owe them. So had to kind of bite the bullet on that one and waste $140, and I had to order the new piston. This one I think I got from Gunmag Warehouse. That's where I could find it in stock. I think it was like $140 or so. But went ahead and took it out, and definitely noticed a difference between the two, how it shot with the OEM piston in comparison to how it shot with the K&S, even in the fully closed position. I always personally start with it fully open, just to see if I'm going to have any issues whatsoever. Again, Tula wouldn't cycle. So actually, let me backtrack. Did notice a big difference in how it felt, along with the ejection pattern. With the OEM piston, like I mentioned, launched them probably 25, 30 feet in the air behind me, sometimes forward of me to the side. With the K&S, definitely threw them a lot shorter, but you could notice a marked improvement in the recoil. I mean, there's almost like zero recoil already. On an already very soft recoiling gun, it is just ridiculously soft with the K&S piston in there. When you get it adjusted, which I think I found the sweet spot to be about 10 clicks open, when using M193, it really just kind of lobs to empties over in a small little pile to the right of you, slightly behind, and then the recoil is very smooth. Wolf OEM piston. M193 OEM piston. Over there to the grass line. Wolf 55 grain, K&S piston fully closed. M193, K&S piston fully closed. Right over there in front of that post. PMC X-Tac, K&S piston, open 7 clicks. Right here. M193, K&S 7 clicks open. M193, K&S piston, 7 clicks open. But that was my experiences with getting the right KNS piston for this gun. Kind of sucked. What really sucked is basically I ended up paying for it twice. But just like any other KNS piston, they do make a big difference in both feel when it comes to recoil, along with the shell extraction. Now, pattern, how far it throws, that's really only kind of interesting, but I think what's more important is that that the trunnions not getting beat to death as bad as it would be if you're using, the OEM piston, which typically is really overgassed. Again, do find it very strange though that Tula 223 would not run even with the OEM piston reliably in this gun. But, talking about ejection pattern, AKs are weird. KNS does say something that's indicative of knowing your gas is over, or your gun is over gassed, is if it throws shells more than 15 feet. Between the other AKs that I have, I've got some that launch the empties but are very smooth shooting, like my Sam 7K was. Then you look at my KP 104. That gun didn't. It launched the shell casings maybe up to 15 feet, but was probably the more heavy recoiling AKs that I have. Both guns, both issues are really smoothened out by use of a KNS piston. My advice to you would be make sure, regardless of the model that it's advertised for, that you go on the KNS website and you measure the working length and the hole length to make sure that you're getting the right one. Save yourself some time and possibly some money. In this case, it cost me money because I already fired a shot through it, so they wouldn't take it as a return. Trigger. Definitely wanted to use an ALG trigger in this. I thought about doing the Fime Enhance like I do in my Boreal, but I really, really love these ALG triggers. So this is the ALG AKTEL. Ordered it from Palmetto State Armory's website. When I got it, it came in Palmetto State Armory packaging. And I don't know if it's the one that they offer through their line, but it is the ALG trigger. Do really like this one. I have a really hard time telling the difference between the EL and the UL, and I do have both in different guns. So I just went ahead and spent a little bit less money. Plus, I do want to say I think this was on sale for like 80 or 85 bucks, which was some of the determining factor for me. Kind of lastly, I do want to talk about the sight. So knowing that I wasn't going to put a red dot on here, I was going to use irons, I did want a little bit of enhanced sight. So again, I am a little bit newer into the AK world. Trying to think of different options out there, and there's like a ton of them. There was one which I don't know who invented it, if it was Jim Fuller, but with Jim Fuller, typically when you have your rear AK sight, it's like a square or a rectangle with a notch in the middle of it. And he comes to find out if you round off the corners, it helps draw your eye more so to the center of it. I've never experienced that so much myself. But that was one option. I know that I think it's GG&G they make, which basically a peep sight. KNS Precision, they make a needle point. I think they also make some type of peep sight for the rear. And what I wanted to do was, I noticed that XS Sights, they do make their big dot sights for AKs. I've had their big dot sights on shotguns in the past, so that one was like a ghost ring sight, and it's going to be kind of hard for me to get it on camera here, but you can see here with their pistol sights, they have a very shallow V along with a line in the center, and then they have their dot. Now they have a standard dot and they have a big dot. I didn't want the big dot because I didn't want it to take up too much room whatsoever, or as far as like how much space it's taking over the target. So let's try to get here on camera for you guys. Can't really get it on camera, but basically the whole principle is that you just want to dot the eye. So as far as not having to line up a little notch in between, you just have the shallow V, and then you just line up the bottom of the white circle along with the eye here, and then to go ahead and squeeze off your shot. So this is, besides being white, catches your eye a little bit better. They do both have tritium in here. I do currently have a media partnership along with XS Sights. Reach out to Jeff, who's their marketing guy. I asked him about them. He did go ahead and send these out to me. I did not pay for these, though. This isn't just an endorsement for the KNS sights. I will say that I do really, really like the setup here. Changing them out was pretty simple. You press them out. You screw out the post like you would with an AK sight. You press out the drum. I would highly recommend that you get a good tool for it. And when I say good tool, I'm talking about the Magnamatic AK front sight tool Gunsmith Edition. So this is the one here in particular I had to get because of the front sight post that you have on the WBP mini jack. Most of your standard tools won't work with this. This one will, but not only that, but it's made of really superior products, which you can get way more leverage and torque on these things. These damn front sight barrels can be a pain in the butt. No affiliation with Magnamatic. I just want to go ahead and give them props and say, listen, I know this tool, it is not cheap, but I'm going to tell you that it's definitely worth it, because even with the extra torque that I could get on this one did not want to come out very easily at all. Kind of going back to the usability of the sights, I mean, I don't have any AKs that have iron sights on them. All of them do have red dots on them or holographic weapon sights. It's kind of hard for me to tell. My KP104, I could just take off the rear sight. I could probably really do the same. I mean, I could with my Sam 7K or even my Brio. So all of them, I could go ahead and take the optics off of them, but I already have them zeroed, so I didn't really feel like doing it. But I did find it a lot faster. It was very intuitive, just I kind of like picked this thing up and shouldered it around my house. In order to go dot that I, it seemed very natural feeling to me. And one of the things that I feel is a lot more kind of a barometer of how well these sights are, how natural and intuitive they are, was taking my wife out. So, Christmas Eve, we went out shooting. First time she ever shot this gun, and also the first time that she shot a gun with iron sights, because even all my ARs have some type of optic on them in some way or another. So she is an experienced rookie. She doesn't get to go out as much as she would like, or as I would like. She maybe goes out with me 3, 4, maybe 5 times a year, but she is really into it, and she really liked them a lot. We were shooting a 10-inch gong from about, it was different distances from 25 to 40 feet away. She was able to tag some, a 10-inch gong with open sights, especially having that larger dot on there with an inexperienced shooter. The fact that she could hit them with some reliability, repeatability, I thought that was a pretty dang good thing. And then when I asked her about it afterwards, so I didn't kind of give her any preconceived notions on them whatsoever. I just asked her as we were driving home what she thought about that, and she said that it did feel very, very natural, being able to line up and just kind of dot the I's. So she was happy with them. I'm happy with them. Definitely highly recommend these. And so, no, last but not least, I know some people may be wondering, but hey, regular dude, you've got a stock on a pistol there. So yes, while this did come as a pistol, I did submit a Form 1 on this a couple months back, and it got approved within single-digit days. I can't remember which one it is, because I bought cans at the same time. But between Form 1s and Form 4s right now, they're coming back in single-digit times. I want to say this thing came back, I think it was like 4 days. So I don't really like messing with pistols. I always use the SBR everything I have. So overall, I think the WBP mini jack, very, very happy with the purchase. Obviously, with the things that I had done with it, mainly talking about the, the 5.5 millimeter side folder conversion, kind of doubled the price of the gun. You can get one of these when you can find them for about $850 or so. And if you wanted to go a different option on that, you could definitely choose to go with something like a CNC Warrior. Kind of like what I have here on my Sam 7K. This is definitely a very, very super solid option. I just don't think it looks the most AK natural, if that's the right term for it. So considering I wanted this to be a little bit more traditional, for me, the 5.5 millimeter stock was really the way that I wanted to go for it. But again, if you don't want to spend all the money to have the rear trunnion work done, if you just want to get something that bolts on a little bit more, there's different pick adapters that you can get, or even just the adapter specifically for a smooth bottom gun or smooth rear trunnion gun. CNC Warrior makes them. Besides their stocks, they do make their braces that look exactly like this without the cheek weld pad. But the end here just has an opening, to make it a brace. But this is probably the best option, one of the better options out there, if you want to go with a stock or a brace without going ahead and paying the money to do a full conversion done. So that's about it. That's my overview of the WBP Mini Jack 556. Really like this gun a lot. Has been a lot of fun, despite of the sorting things out that I had with it whatsoever. This thing with the JMac brace on here, it is loud, but be expected for a 10.2 inch barreled AK. I'm shooting 5.56. I will say that one thing I noticed with this gun is that once I started using my Putnik on it, you can see where the Cerakote's starting to kind of wear around it. Never had that issue with 7.62x3.9, and that's shooting on an 8.3 or 12.4 inch barrel. Once I started shooting 5.56 out of here, I guess it just makes a hotter blast out of there. But nothing that affects function whatsoever. I just found that kind of interesting. But overall, really fun gun. I like it a lot. My wife, she mentioned this is probably the most fun gun that I have. A lot of it is because it is so light without having weapon lights, optics, handguards, all that stuff on there. And it is so soft shooting. 5.56s definitely seem to be the wave of the future for AKs with the Russian import ban of cheap steel case 7.62. I think there's always going to be a purpose for 7.62x3.9. That is the Lortz caliber when it comes to AKs. But 5.56 AKs are definitely a lot of fun. So if you manage to get your hands on one of these, or if you're thinking about it, don't hesitate to pull the trigger. I think it is a very good purchase, especially for the price. But that's about it. If you liked the video, please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, share the video as much as you want. It really helps the channel out, especially with the algorithm. And I definitely keep the comments coming. Really appreciate those. I like interacting with all of you. So that's about it for this video. Hope to help some of you guys out, and see you in the next one. Thanks.